Hey, in this video I will be covering fake product certificates and test reports, which can be a bit more complicated than it may seem. So we're going to start with test reports, two types of, well, fake or invalid lab test reports. Number one is an altered test report. It's an authentic test report, say issued by a company like SGS or Intertek, but the information has been, well, uh, adjusted to, say, match a certain product, maybe a supplier. Okay, that's actually fairly common that they go out and they use test reports issued by existing companies, or a failed result magically becomes a approved result, that it's actually pass when it's a testing failure. And I remember dealing with this. This was many years ago when I used to be based in Shanghai, and working with this PVC supplier. And our client had buying this PVC material from this factory. They booked a third party lab test. I think it was a reach test or something through the supplier, and we received the SGS test report. We contacted SGS, asked them to verify it. It turns out that they said that they have been making changes to this document, and the difference was the product. So what the supplier had done was that, okay, they had two customers both buying PVC. Hey, why pay for two reach tests when we can just pocket the money and do it all in one? Okay. Eventually turned out that the client's material was compliant, but nonetheless it was an invalid test report. So that's one example. Another one is if you're dealing with a factory and they know they're not compliant, or they don't have any pre-existing test reports, they might get one from a different company, just switch up the company name. They can get that done in Photoshop or something. And then we have perhaps a more sinister category, and that's like fake test reports that could either be created by the supplier, or some of the more common, that they buy these test reports from third parties. I'm not going to mention any specific company here, but yeah, there are companies that do specialize in such services, if we can call it that. And these are test reports issued without any actual testing taking place, in which case, of course, it's not valid in any way. All right. This is just for the sake of clarification. If you haven't seen a test report before, this is what it could look like. So this is from SGS. It's a big company, a reputable company, been around for like 106 years or something. So this is can either be titled as product, or in this case, sample description, manufacturer. Okay, I've been blocking that out. Uh, and up here you would also find a number, a number that is unique for this specific test report. And that also leads me to the next part when it comes to verifying, or, well, in this case, identifying a fake test report. Now, whenever you receive a test report from a supplier, for whatever reason, okay, you must always verify that with the issuing company, which in this case was SGS. Okay. Now, doing so either means that you use an online verification service. Most of the big ones like SGS, Intertek, and so on, they provide this. So you can go on their website, and they have a system for verifying test reports, audit reports, and yeah, all sorts of documents issued by them. And normally you just input the document number that you will find either at the top of the document, or maybe below in the footer. But either way, if they don't have a automatic system, so you can actually cross-check with the data bank right away, you can then contact them via email. But any real testing company will be ready to verify the authenticity of any document that they have issued. If they don't, or if they're trying to charge you, then yeah, something is really off. Okay. Um, Number two is also to compare the data. Now, as I just mentioned, you will get a number up here. But what if they switch out the product name, or they switch out the manufacturer name? Okay, you need to carefully compare what you'll see in the database, assuming that you will actually get access to the original report, but many of them actually provide that. Okay. 3. You can also check if the testing company is accredited or accepted in the EU or the US. This could be, say, if you're planning to sell children's products in the United States, you must book testing with a CPSC accepted testing company. Okay. Now, perhaps you're not in the children's products industry, but you could still go to the CPSC accepted testing companies list and just run the name. Okay, and if it's there, at least it's on the radar of perhaps the biggest consumer product safety authority in the United States. That's something. Okay, I don't really know what kind of criteria they put on these companies, but it's definitely better than a lot of these mysterious companies that, yeah, they're saying that we've seen a thing or two when it comes to testing companies. Uh, so yeah, I'm not gonna mention a specific company, but there's a lot of exotic testing companies out there, and it seems like new ones are popping up every year. And no, I'm not just referring to China. There's a lot of weird things going on also in Europe. Yeah, so don't accept testing companies from these unknown companies that you never heard of. Or sorry, test reports. Okay, product certificates, and yeah, this can get even the waters get even muddier. Now, it's important to understand what a product certificate is. Okay, it's not a test report. Is a document listing, well, the test results. Okay, it explains what have been tested and what was the result of those tests. It should be fairly detailed. A product certificate, on the other hand, can be a self-issued certificate, or it can be a certificate issued by a third party. Okay, something that we see quite a lot, especially in 2020 and everything we've been through this year, is the certificate of conformity, or the CE certificate. Now, the CE certificate is, well, CE marking is mandatory in Europe for medical supplies, electronics, toys, PPE, and yeah, a range of products. Okay. And what a lot of manufacturers, especially in mainland China, what they do is that they don't really understand what CE compliance really means. Okay. Many of them, they reach out to, yeah, some of these mysterious companies, we can call them that, and they buy a C certificate, a C certificate of conformity. You see that quite a lot. The thing is that many of these documents are completely worthless. They have no value, like in the sense that they don't override. They are not substitutes for the C documentation that you actually need. Okay, I'm not gonna go into detail. You need to, yeah, you need to. We got a bunch of videos and articles about that anyway, but they really don't have any real value. Okay, they often look official in the sense that they look pretty well made, um, and many smaller importers, without understanding what compliance really means, they contact a supplier online and they receive one of these sort of official looking CE certificates, or certificate of conformity, and they just make the assumption that, okay, this looks good enough, I'm gonna go with that. And it's even a CE logo and all that. That's extremely risky, but it's also like, I also believe that many buyers, they want to trust this. Okay, they want this to be simple. They don't want it to be as complicated as us at Compliance Gate make it out. It's more than a few times that companies that we've been working with and entrepreneurs that we've been working with been getting really pissed off when we say, okay, this document is worthless. They want to believe. And what can I do? I can't stand in the way. Okay. compliance assessment reports or compliance assessment certificates. These are, well, they could be legit. I mean, it's a good idea. Basically, you have a third party that they look at your compliance documents, they look at your test reports, they look at your product labels and so on, and packaging design, and they say, okay, we think this is good enough, and they sign. And that's actually used. That's something it's sort of the way a notified body works, which is also mandatory for some products in Europe. But we've also seen a lot of these compliance assessment certificate, attestation of compliance. They also look very official, but they are not substitutes in any way. And the thing is that these documents, they are rarely, if ever, supported by a real test report. But I'm going to get to that in a bit. Then we also have self-issued certificates, which is completely fine. It's the way it works. CPSIA, you got a children's product certificate. You, as the importer or domestic manufacturer, issue the document. Okay. That's just the way it is. In the EU, there's a declaration of conformity, declaration of compliance for food contact products. I think they even state that the declaration of compliance must be issued by the importer or a domestic manufacturer. So the issue at hand here is not that, oh, it's a self-issued certificate. That's how it normally works. However, these documents must almost always be issued based on real test results. Okay? So you could say that a self-issued certificate is worthless, is invalid, in case there's no test reports to support it. So that's another thing that goes into this. And you may see those. You may encounter those when you deal with suppliers, because it doesn't cost anything to issue a DOC or a CPC. So, how do you spot a fake product certificate? Number one, as the easiest one, request a product lab test report that supports the document. Okay? Because that's the thing. So I'm not really aware of any document self-issued or third-party issued that's based on nothing. Okay, here you go. This is the certificate. Oh yeah, great, you have a certificate. Now what? It doesn't work like that. It's always based on something. It's sort of like a front page. It's a summary page, maybe executive summary. In a business plan. That's pretty much how these documents work, but they are not based on air. They got to be something to support it. So ask for a lab test report, and if they got an issue with that, then you can be pretty sure that, okay, this is falling apart. Number two, do they have all the required information in the document? Okay, and that can be harder to verify unless you know what should go into the document. But that's the second thing to look at. And as I mentioned, two examples. One is a DOC, the other one is a CPC. So what are the consequences of selling products without the required compliance documents? Well, something we see more and more is that freight forwarders and what's called economic operators, that they're not government bodies in that sense. They're not official. They are private companies. However, we see that there's more responsibility being shifted on these entities. So one scenario is that your shipment could be rejected by the freight forwarder. Okay, try to ship anything with lithium batteries without the right documentation. That's difficult. The product may be seized by the customs authorities. That's another fun thing that can happen. You may be investigated by, say, the CPSC or the various national government bodies in the EU. Fines, forced recalls, just to get started. And of course Amazon, that's a real gatekeeper these days. They may reject your product. As we get a lot of companies contacting us. I would say Amazon is by far the one that importers of non-compliant and unsafe products have issues with these days. That's how it is. Alright, if you want to learn more, you can go to compliancegate.com/free and sign up for our compliance information software, which helps you understand labeling requirements, testing requirements, and also compliance documentation slash certification requirements for a range of products and markets. And as said, it's completely free.